So we drop down. Go ahead, Devin.
I titled this on my video I posted tonight as "This is the people's main event."
I agree with that.
I think that this is honestly going to be the fight people are going to be the most looking forward to. Is Ben Askren versus Jorge Masvidal. They're both coming off. Askren, career winner, Olympic level wrestler, collegiate All-American, highly decorated wrestler. He's undefeated in MMA. The former ONE FC champion, the former Bellator champion, comes in, makes his Octagon debut, gets a controversial win over Robbie Lawler, has been out there on all the media talking and, making a name for himself. And here you got the total opposite with Masvidal, a fighter's fighter, a guy who grew up on the streets of Miami, fighting in backyards, didn't have that structured, born, prestigious type of thing that Askren has going for him. He fought his way up the hard way, the blood and guts type of way, where he took some L's, had his ups and downs and stuff, but he's constantly gotten better from them. And if you look at a lot of his record in the UFC, you're going to see there's one thing on his losses that stick out the most, and it's SB, split decision.
Yeah.
A lot of his losses have been very close decisions. This man is literally inches on certain fights from having a completely different MMA career. And by completely different, I mean champion.
He's got the same Holly Holm bug that he can't pull the trigger at times.
Yeah, but I think he's kind of corrected that with his knockouts over Till, which I think was his defining moment so far. His knockout over Cerrone. This man went 3 rounds with Damian Maia basically on his back, and got a split decision on that fight. They gave it to Maia, but one judge had it for him, and it was a fight that Damian Maia had him in a lot of grappling scenarios. So don't tell me that he can't hang if Askren is able to get a hold of him. The problem is with Askren. There's a great, brilliant breakdown that I encourage people to go look up that Cruz and that Dominic Cruz and Paul Felder did for ESPN, where Cruz was demonstrating that Ben Askren will throw like a lazy kick and doesn't care if he grabs a hold of it, because he'll jump guard and then just try to create a scramble just to get a hold of Masvidal. That's how he's always fought. He tries to create sloppy scrambles because he knows he's so good. If he just gets a hold of him, he can get this fight into a dominant position. So Masvidal is going to have to fight this fight extra smart. He's going to have to try to keep it off. But I'm going to say right here before I hand it off to Miguel, I'm calling the upset on this. I have it in my gut. I think that there's a lot of experience here. I think that Masvidal is going to be a little bit more driven than what Robbie Lawler really does have sometimes a problem pulling the trigger. He didn't seem like he did against Askren, but it was so evident in that Lawler fight in the few minutes that we got to see of it. Askren's entire MMA game is just not there. He is a pure wrestler. He was so outgunned in the striking department. I'm not sure he's going to be able to. I think this might be quick. I think Masvidal honestly might drop him quick. I'm going Jorge Masvidal to win this.
Miguel, you know a little more about George. You basically started his career. His first pro fight was with the AFC in Florida when he was doing backyard fighting. He came in, if I remember right, at the weigh-ins. His parents had to be there or something like that because he was 17, or what was the deal on that?
I don't think that was him.
There was something like that, but yeah. But I mean,
I know George for a long time, like you said, and I mean the bottom line is he's always had talent, and yeah, the street stuff is all real because he would show up at shows, with some shady characters and stuff, but inside he does have discipline, because you don't get that good on the ground, that good on the feet, and smart about what he's doing because he was looking to mix it up, and he went from the Avalon Brothers and the ATT for more complete training, and I give him a lot of credit. The thing with George is that time has passed, and George has been doing this for so long that you get that's why you get to a record that, what is he, 29-10 or 29-11, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how you get 10 losses is because you've been doing this for, your entire adult life. The time is now, George. This is the one that you can't lose. It's okay to lose, to Rafael Asuncion on a smaller show. That put Asuncion on the map and stuff like that. And, I remember a seminal fight for him under me was when he beat Eve Edwards. And Eve Edwards is a UFC champion level guy.
God, that was a great fight. High kick.
Yeah, and he beat Eve. And I remember Eve actually crying after the fight and be like, I think that's the first fight he lost under me. So yeah, but that was a test fight for George.
Yeah,
and he passed that test. Now this is the test. That was a small test on what is now, in retrospect, a historical or small show. This is the test. This is the one that you'll be a millionaire after the next fight. So he really has to go ahead and seize the moment. And with that, he does have the talent. And now what makes him dangerous is he still has some youth, and he has he's a guy that this was his sport, basically. He's not a wrestler crossover, so we'll see if that makes a difference. I think Devin is not going to be the only one that picks here. I gotta, that's the question that George has to answer. I've seen at times where George, thinks he won a fight that, he took a loss in, and comes out even in some losses unscathed. I mean, I can't think of too many guys who definitively stopped him. Maybe Toby Amada, caught him in that beautiful reverse triangle that in Bellator at one point. But he's really hard to stop and stuff. And Damian Maia and him going to the ground. I mean, the Avalon brothers are no joke on the ground. So I'm not surprised that they wouldn't get submitted even by Damian Maia. I mean, he's that good. He's a good, but not pulling the trigger in fights, taking 10, 11 losses, you become accustomed to. He's got to realize that this is the one. This is the one you can't lose, George. This is the one you can't lose. If he goes in with that urgency, then he can really make it a test. And he's going to have to. The thing that worries me about Askren is that Askren is one of those guys. I remember I've had it happen with two other fighters, Henry Matamoros and Trevor Pranglin. Both guys, a doctor told me, goes, those guys have extremely thick skulls, like abnormally, like that's not normal for a human being. They're much thicker skulled than people. I remember Trevor, remember Casey Uscola hit Trevor, and he goes, I hit him with the best punch I've ever hit anybody, right in the jaw, bam, in the fight. And Trevor went, he goes, I knew I lost that minute, But I think Askren is one of those guys with a freaking just a skull that the first shot Lawler hit him with, and then not going out and being left like, go back in UFC history. If you remember Orlando Veit, remember when he got hit by those elbows from Renko Pardue? And he was out. After Lawler dropped Ben Askren on his head, he should have been out. And he wasn't.
I thought so, too. I thought so.
Managed to fight. You know what I mean? So I think George is going to have to use technique and wear him down, and use an accumulation of punches, because I don't know. Maybe that last time Lawler dropped Askren on his head, that was the last time, and after that he'll be a little weaker, maybe more susceptible. It's not a chin, but similar to the chin kind of thing. But if that's not the case, then George's got a mountain to climb and knock that guy out. That's tough.
See, one thing I think that Masvidal definitely has going for him is you can just look at Askren's performances. Number one, he's not really evolved. And number two,
not at all.
He does not transition well from striking to wrestling. He's a fantastic wrestler.
No, he doesn't.
He gets a hold of you. If he can get a hold of you, he's really well. But he does not time his takedowns well. He doesn't transition with strikes well. It's like he has never even tried to train that. He's just been so confident. It's been so confident in what he does. He is great on the mat. He's a great wrestler that's translated that type of skill set over to the grappling department, and he can pass guard well. He submits people well. He's good at transitioning on the ground. He's actually good off the back. He'll create scrambles from his back and take people down from him. So I think that he's a little slow, and I think that'll work in Masvidal's favor. The one thing that Askren does have going for him in this fight, it's only a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
So Masvidal is going to have to fight with a little bit of urgency. And I would, as you said, I do think that Askren does have a thick skull. I mean, this man's been in there with Douglas Lima. I mean, he's been in there with some good guys, Koreshkov, Robbie Lawler. So it's not like he hasn't fought anybody that's a good striker. He's fought good guys. I think Masvidal not only needs to headhunt, but he needs to go to the body too. The problem is setting up strikes, worrying about that clinch. But I still think that he's going to be a lot faster than what people think, and I think he's gonna set it up a little bit better than what Robbie Lawler did.
Okay, I'm just gonna jump in and say this: Masvidal is going to be much faster than Lawler was. He's not going to bring quite as much power, but he's going to pity pat him, and he's going to hit him a lot. As long as George keeps his feet on the floor, doesn't get stupid, and go for some high kick or something like that. Keep your feet flat on the floor. Keep your distance. Use your reach. And make Askren come in and search for you with his head down, getting beat on the whole time. George is probably going to break his hand at some point in this, but George has fought with broken hands before. I think George beats him, and I think he beats him in 3 rounds. The only way he does it is if Askren gets a takedown in every round. And believe me, that's what he's going to be looking for. Askren is going to say, I need a takedown in every round. And as long as I do that, I'm going to beat George and I'm on to the next thing. The other thing I think that Askren has against him that I think Miguel nailed it is that George has, Askren doesn't. Because it's not like Dana's going to cut Ben Askren if he loses this fight. He's good for the game. You know, he's a good draw. He's only been here 2 times, and he's already 3rd main event. You know, I mean, he's looking great. And the Lawler fight was exciting. It was controversial. He did all the right things afterwards. He talked smack. He's super smart. He reminds me a lot of a young Chael Sonnen, except he's not that young. The one thing that he hasn't taken a lot of abuse because of the people that he's fought. And I'm not saying he hasn't fought a lot of tough people, but predominantly he hasn't fought the UFC caliber people that we see, say, Robbie Lawler fight, right? And so what I think is going to happen with Askren is I think he's either going to get 3 takedowns. And I mean, I know this is my catch-22, so I'm bailing on either side. I'm stacking the deck. But if Askren gets the takedown all 3 rounds, then of course he wins. But if he doesn't get the takedown in all 3 rounds, George wins this hands down, and George probably knocks him out in the 3rd round. And that's my pick on that.
Well,
so
one thing you said there that I do want to comment on is that when it comes to Masvidal, another good thing that he has going for him is a lot of people are gravitating toward his personality. His whole hitting Leon Edwards after the event and him talking beforehand. I mean, it was almost like him and Leon Edwards planned that, because Masvidal talks about, before going into that fight with Till, that he's tired of all the crap talk, and if somebody tries to confront him or whatever, he's firing on them. I mean, and it's like he just gets the biggest knockout of his career against Darren Till in London. And then it's like the other golden boy from London, Leon Edwards, the other Brit. It's like the red carpet was just rolled out to him. Like, oh, well, now I'm going to come and confront you and start talking crap to you live on TV during your interview, just coincidentally. And then he goes up and actually fires on him. It's like, could it have worked out any better to make him a superstar? I mean, it had to have. And then when we look at these, what's going on right now at welterweight, Kamaru Usman is out for a little bit. So Colby Covington got tired of waiting. Colby's fighting Lawler in August. We all assumed Colby Covington was next in line for Usman. But, they don't seem in too big of a rush to make Usman and Covington. And Covington's about to fight, and who knows how that fight turns out. The winner of this could be, when it comes to timing and just who's going to be healthy when Usman returns, the winner of this could get Usman. And I think that if he goes in there and he gets a devastating finish over Ben, the fight with Masvidal would be something to sell for sure, and I think it's possible. And I definitely think the Askren fight with him being Woodley's teammate and his undefeated record and being champion everywhere else, his persona, he could get the fight too with Usman. So, and that would actually be a tough fight for Usman because I'm not sure Usman can just go in there and ragdoll Ben Askren.
Agreed.
So this is an interesting fight. It's a pivotal fight. And I'm with you, Miguel. You gave me chills when you were talking about you can't lose this one, George. It's the one you have to win because I want him to win. I want him to go get that title. I think it'd be awesome because he's a fighter's fighter.
Yeah, that he is. George is straight from the streets. You know, they call him game bred for a reason. And when you meet him and you know him and you're around him and you see how he interacts with people, he has that charismatic style about him that, you know, men want to be him and women want him. And that's just an absolute fact. People gravitate towards him on a style that they don't gravitate towards Ben Askren. There's nobody out there going, Ben Askren's a real sex symbol and I want to be the next Ben Askren. You know, that funky Ben and all that. Nobody's doing that. But there's a lot of guys that could hang out with George Masvidal and say they start talking like George, acting like George, walking like George, dressing like George, because he is that cool to be around.